little bit about my background. First of all, I want to thank you every time you send something to someone that's in the armed forces and serving this great country. That's how I got started. I grew up in Sanger by Fresno, and my dad kind of looked at me one afternoon. I was getting older. I was 27. He said, "Son, it's time you serve your country. Are you going to do it or not?" Within 6 months, I was in the Army. I followed my dad, my grandpa, great-grandpa, and then my brother. And so I was very proud to have served, and I have a great respect for America. And one thing I was taught in the Army: freedom is not free. Our flag is our flag, and we have the freedom because of the sacrifice that our men and women made for us in all the years when America was founded, starting the Revolution, and today where we're at now. Got back from the Army, wanted to get an education. I went to Fresno State, got a degree in political science, and then from there I got into the real estate business. I have a company called Oral Financial. We do commercial real estate. Been doing it for 20 years. I'm proud to have a payroll that I met for those 20 years and created jobs there. And we are open every day and continue to be in business. I have to say, Governor Newsom tried to make it hard on us during all the shutdown and lockdowns, but we stayed open throughout the time that went on and never missed a single day. And we plan to continue to do that. I also had the honor of serving in the Fresno City Council. Very proud of my record as a conservative Republican. I was very careful to make sure that our values of protecting our unborn children from conception to natural death, our Second Amendment rights, and our conservative values of freedom and liberty and not government control. And I will continue to do that. I honestly believe the less government we have, the better off we are. One of the main reasons I got into this race is because of your current Congressman, David Valadao. He voted to impeach President Trump. And personally, I thought in my lifetime we finally had a president that put Americans first and cared about America and loved our country. What does Mr. Valadao do? 6 weeks after President Trump endorses him, it was only a 1,200 vote spread that he beat Cox by. He decides to not only vote to impeach President Trump, embarrass us, betray us as conservative Republicans, but on top of all that, he calls him un-American. What is that all about? We need to stick together and not have rhinos in our party. Elizabeth Cheney is another example that work against us and work around us. A lot of what Mr. Trump wanted to get done was stopped by rhinos. John McCain is one example. Mitt Romney is another. We have to stick together. If we don't, we're not going to protect our conservative values. A couple things that I wanted to cover that I think are going to benefit us all. You've probably heard about Trump Social. This is a new website that's coming out that Mr. Trump sponsored. I think that's very good. Let's face it, the tech industry has been extremely hard on President Trump and Republicans. Twitter banned him, Facebook banned him. That's not what it's all about. Since when does a social media site ban the President of the United States from expressing their views? And so hopefully with Trump Social, he's no longer under their purview and he can spread our conservative message directly without the threat of being shut down. The other thing I want to talk about is just overall government control. Personally, if you want to get vaccinated, that's your personal choice. It's not up to the government to tell us that we have to get vaccinated. The same thing with masks. Since when does the government tell our kids, where only 1% can even have a chance of catching COVID, that they have to wear masks in the classroom? And it's still happening right now. It's still happening. Our kids are still wearing masks. I mean, is that really what we're all about? However, there are some good news. There is good news related to school boards. You might have heard in San Francisco, 3 members of the school board just got ousted. The 3 progressive members. Isn't that great news? It's very surprising in San Francisco, and you'll never believe who controlled that and made that possible. And let me tell you why. It was the Chinese community, which is 30% of the city of San Francisco. And guess one of the reasons that they were made mad? They basically accused the Chinese community of using white supremacist tactics to try to control the teachers and the faculty there. They used that word, imagine that. And so the Chinese community said, you know what, you want to start calling us names? We're going to take you to the woodshed. And they did. 3 of them are gone. Fantastic news. And guess what? You have an opportunity to do the same thing come June and November. We need to send any incumbent, as far as I'm concerned, out, because in the last couple of years, incumbents were watching us. They were going with these mandates. They were telling us what to do. They were controlling us. Republican and Democrats alike. Why didn't more of them stand up for our causes, our rights? They didn't. So I think we need some new blood. Term limits are important. 2 terms. And I believe we need new blood. We need a new outlook. Other thing very important to me is how parents are being harassed at school board meetings. That has to stop. I want the parents to decide my son's education, not the government. And if you look at what's been going on in some of these school board meetings, you actually have law enforcement telling school board parents at school board meetings what they can and can't do. In Porterville, right here locally, I might have heard about it, but a lady was at a city council meeting in her 70s. She had her mask down, exposing her nose. They escorted her and cuffed her and removed her from the Porterville city council meeting. That's not what America's all about. We're a free country. We don't need to be controlled. And that's some of the things that are happening right now that we need to stop. They never happen again. The other thing to me very important is our border. America is a proud country. Being an American is a privilege, not a right. And so if you're going to come to America, come here to work hard. Come here to obey our laws. Come here to learn English and be part of us. Don't try to change us and don't make us adapt to what you're bringing. Come to America, proud, salute our flag, speak English fluently, and love America. And if you don't, please don't come. And I strongly believe that. I'm a proud American, and I don't want anyone to take that from me. The other thing to me is we just need a complete change of the guard. How many are tired of paying, pushing $5 a gallon for gas?
It's going to even go up.
And how many people are tired of the highest inflation rate in the last 40 years? And let me give you the reason all this is happening. One of the first moves that President Biden, I almost make that mistake, did, is that he stopped the Keystone Pipeline. Do we want to be energy dependent or independent? I'd much rather be independent. And look where fuel was under President Trump and look where fuel is now. It's a big difference. And also look at inflation. You're having to pay over $10 for a hamburger. It shouldn't be that way. We've got to get this thing back in control because it's going to affect Alexandra, for example. She has young children. She's a working mom, single mom. Those things impact families and single moms and seniors. Every time something goes up, it impacts your pocket and your wallet. And we need to get things back under control. Other thing real important to me is just the general government overreach. Since when should somebody in the military be asked to leave the military and be discharged because they're not willing to get vaccinated? That happened. Talk to the people at Lemoore Naval Air Station. They told them, you got to go. You won't be vaccinated. Well, since when do you do that to somebody who's serving in the military? You tell them you got to go because you won't get vaccinated. You shouldn't allow that. Same thing with prison guards. The prisoners don't get vaccinated, but guess what? All the guards have to. I mean, it's a double standard. It's not right. We need to be fair and make sure we don't over-control our first responders and people in law enforcement. And finally, and I don't want to talk all afternoon here, I do want to thank you very much for being able to come. You can count on me that I will be someone that will work hard to make sure that this government doesn't continue to control us, make sure that we're free again, and if there's things that happen that I believe are unnecessary and restrictive, I will do everything in my power to stop them. And I think that's what you need in a leader, someone that if you have a problem, you can count on me. We still there?
Yeah.
Sounds good. And so what I'd like to do, instead of me just leaving now, can I please get a little bit of input from all of you and find out what's important to you? What do you expect in your member of Congress? Things that I can take back with me, because what's most important to me is not so much me talking, but it's hearing from all of you. And so I'd like to open it up and kind of get an idea of what's on all your minds and what do you expect out of me and what do you want to see happen as soon as possible. flag on the original lake, would have increased water storage, would have stopped the water from flowing into the ocean when there was too much water. Guess who killed it? The water board. Where was David Valadeo when that happened? Where was any member of Congress in the Valley when that happened? Did you see anybody object to it, say anything about it? As far as I'm concerned, we should not allow these Governor Newsom appointed boards to determine our future when it comes to water storage. And I strongly believe that that is a good project. We should look at that project again, and we should make sure that we're not putting the Delta smell in front of people's personal needs and the ranchers and farmers' needs for water. It's very important that we have water and enough water. Our ranch is west of the Freeway. If it doesn't rain, cattle don't eat. We got to buy alfalfa. It costs us more money. It impacts our profits. And so, without rain and without water storage, we're not going to be this strong valley that we've always been. We are #1 in agricultural products in the world. Fresno County, Kings County, Kern County, Tulare County. Let's not lose that designation. Let's keep our young men and women working. Let's keep our farmers working, and let's continually stay strong when it comes to our agriculture. We're so dependent on it. And frankly, I'd much rather eat grapes from Kings County than having them coming from Chile or Argentina. We got to eat the local grapes. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I'd like to see transparency. I think even our local government, they're not transparent. We don't know what happens until after it happens. And after till we end. Second, I'd like to see the fight for our children, wearing masks, and not letting our young children get this vaccine.
I am 100% against the school districts mandating that our children get vaccinated. That is your choice as their parent. My choice as my son's dad. It's not the government's choice. As far as transparency, I think it's so important that we eliminate a lot of these closed session type meetings, because what happens is behind closed doors, a lot of times things that shouldn't be happening happen. It's basically called closed session in government speak. We're working for you. We should not be hiding from you or making decisions without the public's input. And there again, let me ask you, when is the last time any of you have seen David Valadeo walking through a neighborhood or knocking on the door or showing up at any public event? Why is he hiding from us? If I have to hide from you, the worst thing to do is you need to deport me and send me to another country. Because if I want to represent you, I need to be good or bad. If I make a mistake or not, I need to face the music and not hide and cower, but be strong and be available for you. And I can tell you when I was on the city council, it got rough. I remember I'm personally against burning the American flag, having served in the armed forces. I had a guy deliver an American flag burnt at my doorstep. I didn't change my position. I don't believe the American flag should be burned. I was in a bank because I opposed government funding of the baseball stadium back then, because I thought that should be a private project. We should use taxpayer money. I had a guy pick a fight with me right in the bank. That's what goes with being an elected official. You can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Bottom line.
I want some term limits.
I'd like to see some term limits, and I definitely want more transparency. The whole term is, well, look it up. Well, we shouldn't have to look things up to the extent that we have to find out information in our own community. And that goes for what Congress is doing and what the Senate is doing. Yeah, we have a website. But you know what? You shouldn't spend your day finding out what your leaders are doing. And crime. Crime is like #1 for me. Defund the police and letting people out with no bail and shoplifting, and you have people shoplifting $950 walking out, but yet the school board parent is handcuffed. And that is, to me, I wake up thinking I'm in another country. So our list is long, and it's almost overwhelming. So that's me. That's where I am.
Sounds like a Republican to me. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, and one thing I want to let you know, I did sign a tournament pledge, and I posted it on Facebook, and I think that's so important. Really, Nancy Pelosi, should she still be there?
No!
Should Chuck Schumer still be there? Should President Biden still be there? Okay, these people need to get out. Biden started when he was 29 years old. He's never worked in the private sector. He's never experienced the hardships we have in this room. He's still there. He's still creating havoc to the American people. 2 terms and adios, let someone else have a chance. Strongly believe in that.
Not only them, but Chuck
Schumer too, I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, but my, I don't know what's the case. My biggest, thing is abortion.
Here.
And until abortion is completely gone, we will not have peace in our country. There will be no peace until we have no more abortions. And that's what we need is our government.
Need our God back.
Let me give you some good news regarding abortion. Again, thanks to President Trump, we got Amy Coney Barrett as our new Chief Justice. We now have enough votes on the Supreme Court to kill Roe versus Wade once and for all.
Yeah.
Life starts at conception when God creates us and ends in natural death. It's none of the government's business. Bottom line. And I'm with you 100% on that. Overturn it, move on.
School choice.
And school choice. I'm glad you brought that up. It's so important that as parents, you can, if you want, teach your kids at home. What's wrong with homeschooling? Absolutely nothing. Since when do we force to go to our public schools where we have a lot of the education that we don't necessarily agree with, all this woke stuff, critical race theory, which divides us and separates us, not necessarily, we're all Americans. And, you know, if you want to teach your own kids at home, that's your prerogative. The government shouldn't stop you from doing it.
I would say, voting security. Yes.
Another good. Boy, this
It doesn't matter, I'll just speak loudly. Voting security is important. You only get to vote for socialism once, and that's what's happening in this state, and I don't think it's because it's what we're voting for. And so, you know, again, when we're talking about abortion, California wants to be an abortion sanctuary state.
They already
So
are.
our tax dollars could come to pay for people to come out of state when Roe v. Wade gets overturned. And so, right now, Kings County is talking about a voter choice act that's gonna just expand everything to, like 30 days of voting, and a lot of mail-in, and drop boxes, and all that is, to me, says, no security, no security, no security.
You're so right. Since when should everyone automatically get a ballot in the mail? What I thought absentee balloting was for if you have a health issue, you have a disability, you're in the armed forces, you're out of town. Then it makes sense. People should be able to vote even if they're hospitalized or if they have a medical condition. You want a six-pack, you cash a check, it's all required. And so I think we need to get away from this open, free-for-all balloting and go back to the old school. You go to the polls if you can, you show your ballot, your driver's license, you vote. They verify who you are. If you have a disability or you have a medical issue, then get your absentee. You have that right. Or if you're stationed overseas or you're out of town. But, changing all of this, what it does, it just opens up these elections to fraud. And I think it's going on. I think it happened with the president's election, and I think it happened with the recall. And we need to stop it. Because we can work all very hard in this room, but if we don't have an honest election, it's all in vain.
People don't vote because they don't think they're voting.
That's happening too.
I'm not gonna vote, and that's what I said with the recall. Why am I gonna vote? Because it doesn't
Because
count.
nothing
You need to
matters.
vote anyway.
But let me give you the good news. Here in District 22, your vote matters. Every single vote matters. So please, vote, vote, vote. And do me another favor, don't move out of state. We got so much. We're moving to Texas. Please stay here.
Vote in person.
Are you aware of SB 866? It allows minors to vaccinate without parental consent if they're like 12 years old and they're opening these vaccine cottages on these school campuses, and if your kid's there that day, that's just like consent, they can just take your kid and vaccinate your kid without you knowing about it, and it's sick. Then there's SB 871 mandates the COVID-19 vaccine for daycare and all children, removing the personal belief exemption. Disgusting. We need to oppose that. AB 1993 mandates vaccine for all employees and independent contractors. Again, you know, if somebody wants to go get it, fine. Everybody knows it's there. But this whole mandate stuff, you know, they want you to have a vaccine passport, show your driver's license, go get a cup of coffee, but not to vote. It's just, the logic doesn't make any sense. Then the other thing is AB 2098 disciplines doctors who speak out against the COVID-19 narrative. So they're being punished, they're trying to take their medical licenses away, another form of socialism, you know? So just things for us to, and then they're trying to come up with a new Planned Parenthood building on Mooney Boulevard in Visalia, right in front of Hobby Lobby, which is probably the most Christian business around. I'm thinking, that's on purpose. That's, of all, I mean, they shouldn't be opening it anyway, but of all locations, right there on Mooney Boulevard in front of probably the most Christian store that's like closed on Sundays.
Yes.
I'm going, what is going on here? So,
What did they build there? I didn't understand.
they're gonna put a Planned Parenthood abortion clinic on Mooney Boulevard. There's a city council meeting March 7th, so there's gonna be a lot of people showing up
Do
to.
you think that was on purpose? Because they know.
I think it's on purpose, right in front of Hobby Lobby, it's
Exactly.
closed on Sundays, right? I mean, because they're a Christian company. I think it's evil plans, for sure.
I just wanted
We
to
need to go
quickly
there.
say, that's exactly right, we need to watch those mandates, and what you're talking about is just ways of government controlling our families and telling us what to do with our bodies. It doesn't work that way. And appreciate you bringing all that up. And as far as Hobby Lobby, if you ever make it to Washington DC, they founded the Bible Museum. And they're good Christian business people, and they're all on our side. You know, so I'm glad you brought that up. Sorry about that, I didn't mean to exclude you.
I'm just concerned about the border, our border, not the border in Spain, but our border. Just open.
No, and
They don't have to show anything, and I have to show ID to buy a bottle of wine.
yeah, no, you're right, and
Really, I mean, you do.
it's nice that you're still part of it. See, that's a 21-year-old here. Looking good. Real good.
Some places they have to card, they won't even go to the computer.
Right.
They see it on Facebook. But I'm very concerned about the flow. It's just coming, and then they're shipping them all over the United States with nothing, no COVID test, but nothing.
No, and there again, getting back to President Trump, the stay in Mexico mandate, which again, President Brandon, Biden tried to overturn. Luckily enough, it held and it's still in force. And I think it's very important that if you want to come to America, look, my parents are both immigrants. When I was a kid, we spoke German first. Seriously, and this is the truth gospel. One thing my dad always told me, he says, we're Americans first. We need to be proud Americans. We need to love this country and learn what it is to be an American. If you come here, as I said, come legally. And what happens now, if you come over on federal property, you just get cycle, paperwork, released. What does that mean? Your next step is signing up for the welfare benefits, and now you become a public charge. And that's what's going on right now, by the thousands. And it just isn't right. You should be able to come to America. We are a land of immigrants. I respect that. But come legally, and don't work us, and don't take advantage of all the hardworking taxpayers in this room. You know, it's just so important that we continue to be a sovereign, proud nation. God bless America.
It's too bad we don't have any issues, right? When we get to Congress, they have the purse strings and $30 trillion in debt. We're talking about the kids. They're paying for it. And so government's overreach, which we've all been talking about, is being funded by taxpayers. So please put a lid on that.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought that up. Just in the last 2 years, we've added $2 trillion to our national debt. One thing I'm very proud of is when I was on city council there, in conjunction with the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, that has fought hard for the last 20 years, keeping our property taxes down, we successfully stopped what was called an in lieu of fee. And what they were doing, they were taxing people that paid their water for real estate and facilities owned by the taxpayers. So you were paying rent on your own, it's like you were paying yourself rent. And so we stopped it, and over $10 million were issued in refunds to water ratepayers there in Fresno. And so you can fight City Hall, you can fight the federal government, but you have to speak up. You got to be loud, you got to be forceful. And frankly, right now, we've been ramroded, and that's got to stop. You're so right. Any more?
We talked about school choice and it's on our table. Last night, people from Bakersfield who spoke here were at our Sons of Liberty meeting and said they are trying to put, it's called 609 legislation, that every student that's in the classroom now, they get paid for. So what they're trying to do is take an average of classrooms from the year before, say there's 25, that's what you're gonna get paid for. If you have 20, you're still gonna get paid for 25. And that's what they're trying to pass, it's legislation 609.
So you mean if someone doesn't show up, they just take an average, doesn't matter if students show up? So that's got stuff too.
So they don't have to worry about going out to the schools.
Unbelievable, unbelievable.
Is it on? I don't know if any of you guys went to that meeting, the town hall meeting on February 15th. Yeah, I want to talk about that. I live in the neighborhood, there's proposed, well, they're going to do a 72 unit, low income, but what they're going to rent to are, drug addicts, parolees, and, homeless people, and mentally, ill people. And the city approved it, this was in the works like 4 years ago, and every city council member approved it, Doug Berlin approved it, and yeah, so, they said that the state, Newsom gave money, federal gave them money, and our city gave them $1 million of, which basically was our taxpayer money, to squeeze us in behind Chevron on 11th and Fargo. So there was quite a few that turned out, but my thing is that these city council people need to be voted out or recalled, and everybody that's okay with this, it's not okay because there's plenty of other lots that this unit could have gone in. But they said it's okay, it cost $24 million, they collected $34 million, but they won't say what the other $10 million went for. They said that there's going to be basically a psychiatrist on the premises and a security guard, and everything's okay. And this is going right across from Remington. So I mean, this is what our city's doing, and our governor. So I mean, they're using our taxpayer money for this, and it's not right. So that needs to end.
And the thing is I just say follow the money, and I can guarantee you a lot of the people you're talking about that made those decisions, look where they're getting their campaign contributions.
Yep.
And that's the other thing that's got to stop, is all this pay-to-play politics where they're dumping, thousands of dollars into these candidates. I mean, if you look at David Valadao, 80% of his money comes from lobbyists that are in Washington, D.C. Do they really care about Hanford and Kings County? I don't think so. And that's the sad part. It's always the money. And I got criticized by Politico, which is a nationwide, publication, because I didn't have as much money as Valadao. But at the end of the day, it's hard work and meeting people and getting the views out. It's not money. Everything's always money, money. How much money do you have? I get so tired of hearing it. Access, meeting people. If you look at our Facebook page, I've met literally hundreds of people at their door. Regular people, just people that want a better America, and that's what counts. The rich, the corporate giants, they're always going to have people working for them and defending them, but how about the little guy, Single moms, they need help. Everyone needs help, but let's make sure regular people still matter. The middle class is what made America great, and it'll continue to make us great if we can hold on to it. Any other comments from all?
One more.
Well, I was just gonna say that I think the board is the capital of.
Can't hear you.
I think Lemoore is gonna be the capital of dope now because of, we've got this big thing right down on Main Street now where, people are really getting things. And now they have out in the country, it must be, I don't know, not in numbers, but they're growing out in more, way out in more, and it's really bad.
Let me end in a positive note. I love America. We're a blessed nation. We can make a difference. I would be honored when you vote if you could support me, Chris Matisse, Conservative Republican for the United States Congress, 22nd District. God bless you all. God bless America. And thank you so much for allowing me to come and speak today. It meant so much to me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, now we're gonna just sort of wrap up our meeting with a little bit of business, not much, okay?